Your Honor, at this time, the state of Texas rests.
I'm not guilty in that at this time the state has failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt the nature of the case, the allegations against the defendant, and would ask that the court so instruct the jury to return a verdict of not guilty.
Very well, thank you so much, and that will be denied. How many witnesses do you anticipate again?
We have 4 witnesses, Your Honor, one of whom is the mother of, and I think we've let the state know, the mother of the defendant. She's downstairs on the 15th floor, presently being served with an instanter subpoena. We have...
and who's going to be your first witness?
First witness would be, it would be the mother if we could get her up here.
Well, is there any problem with getting her up here?
I see no problem at all.
Well, let's get her up here then.
All right.
Robert Busick.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, state your name for the ladies and gentlemen of this jury.
My name is Golda R. Jacob.
And Ms. Jacob, you're the mother of Leon Jacob, are you not?
I am.
Ms. Jacob, how are you employed?
I'm an attorney. I have a small boutique firm. We do family law.
All right. And how long have you been practicing family law?
About 25 years.
All right. Is there a certification in family law that you engage in?
Excuse me?
Is there any type of certification?
Oh, yes. I'm board certified in family law
All right.
by the state of Texas.
All right. And what does that entail, Ms. Jacob? How do you get certified?
Well, you have to practice a certain number of years. It's, I believe, 5 years with a substantial amount of your time relegated to family practice. My practice is about 98% family practice and has been for probably the last 25 years. And then you have to also meet certain requirements with regard to jury trials, mediations, temporary orders hearings, trials on custody as well as trials on property. Appeals can also, you can use appeals instead of jury trials to meet those criteria if you've done some of those, and then you take a test.
All right. And you're presently in trial downstairs on the 15th floor, are you not?
Correct.
Ms. Jacob, when did we first meet?
We first met...
Check the relevance, Judge.
You didn't know me prior to this case, correct?
No, sir.
All right. Even though we office in the same building, we had not met each other.
That's correct.
I want to ask you some questions about a individual that I believe you represented. Are you familiar with Valerie McDaniel?
Yes.
And in what capacity are you familiar with Valerie McDaniel?
Valerie McDaniel was my next-door neighbor, and I also represented her in her divorce action about a year and a half ago.
All right. And in relationship to Valerie McDaniel, I take it the divorce action was between Valerie being represented by you and whom?
And her husband, Mac McDaniel, who was represented by Looper Reed. It was Kyle Sanders.
All right. During the course of your representation of Valerie McDaniel, did she say anything to you about any intention as far as Mac McDaniel is concerned?
Would you like to hear say, Judge?
Did you have any impression during the course of your representation of Valerie McDaniel, you personally yourself, as to her relationship with Mac?
She hated him.
Sorry?
She hated him.
And was that exemplified in any way other than the divorce proceeding?
She wished he was dead.
Okay. Did she ever talk about any type of contract or anything of that fashion on his life?
Yes.
I pass this witness. Thank you.
So you're telling me that during your representation of Valerie McDaniel, she spoke to you about taking a contract out on her husband's life?
Yes, sir.
And don't you have an obligation as a lawyer to report that?
I didn't take it seriously.
You didn't take it seriously.
No, sir.
Okay, so you knew why you were coming to court today to testify about that statement, correct?
Yes.
But
Well, no, not really.
But you're telling this jury now that you did not take that statement seriously.
I did not.
You never reported that, correct?
I never reported it.
Now, you were familiar with Megan, right? You know who Megan was.
Yes.
And when Megan left your son, he was pretty upset, wasn't he?
Very.
How would you describe the manner in which he was acting immediately after the breakup?
He was really upset. He was sorry about their argument, very remorseful, and wanted to try to talk her into coming back.
He was angry too, wasn't he?
No, I don't remember him being angry.
You would call his attempts to communicate with Megan immediately after the breakup harassing, wouldn't you?
I can't really answer that. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there.
Okay, I want to show you, ma'am, what's been admitted in State's Exhibit 65. And before we get into this, can you tell me who Vladimir is?
Vladimir is a caterer.
And he is an acquaintance of both Megan and your son, correct?
Well, he was actually an acquaintance of mine.
Your son knew who he was, correct?
Yes.
And he had his telephone number? Okay.
I wouldn't know that.
Okay, and do you remember the date that Megan left your son?
I think, can you be specific? Are you talking about the date they had an argument?
The date that she left, the incident for which he was later charged with assault, that date.
I'm sorry?
The date of the incident that he was charged with assault for later on.
It was January of 2017, I think.
January 12th, does that sound right?
I don't remember the exact.
Would that be, is that possible? It could have been that day, January 12th?
Possible.
Okay, I'm going to point out here at the bottom of State's Exhibit 65 a message, and this is your number, correct, right here? Let me zoom in for you.
That's my number.
Okay, and I'm going to read from a text you wrote to your son. Texting and calling is harassment, now of Vladimir as well.
Okay.
When you say as well, the implication there is that you're now telling him he's harassing Vladimir as well as Megan, correct?
Yes.
So when I asked you earlier whether you could describe his behavior as harassing, certainly back in January of 17 you thought so, correct?
Well, you didn't really give me a time frame when you asked me that question. It was
Well, I did
global.
say immediately after the breakup, didn't I?
I don't remember that.
Okay. You also said that you don't recall your son being angry with Megan after the breakup. Do you remember just saying that?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 63 and show you a message that your son wrote to you on January 19th, which is about a week after she left him. I have listened to you, Mother. I am really back on the right track. I am doing I presume he means well. I just want her to go away. Please put this bitch in her place. She changed her cell number, but her email is obviously still active, and then he gives you her email address as well as her street address.
I see that.
Would you describe that email as an angry email or angry text message?
Part of it.
Okay. So which part of that would you not describe as being angry?
I've listened to the first part. I've listened to you, Mother. I'm really back on the right track. I'm doing well, I guess.
But we both agree that put this bitch in her place is pretty angry.
It sounds angry.
This is again, back to the 14th, which is 2 days after Megan left in.
And if you can reduce it just a little more so I can get the entire text.
Yes, sir.
Me too. Please.
There is no.
Still don't have the entire text.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. I'm only going to be asking about this line
Oh,
right here.
that one too.
Yes, sir. States Exhibit 61. This is to your son on the 14th of January again. There is no excuse for your bad behavior. Same song you always sing. What is that in reference to?
You know, I honestly don't remember what specifically. It's a year and a half. I don't remember exactly why I said that.
Well, what is the same song you always sing?
Judge, I'm going to object to this question. It pertains to character and goes far beyond the scope of direct examination of Ms. Jacob.
Well, Judge, I mean, she said in the direct aftermath of her son and Megan breaking up, she doesn't recall him being angry. This is part of the same conversation.
It's over.
I still don't remember what we were talking about specifically.
Okay, and I just wanted to be clear one more time. You had a client in a contentious divorce case who talked to you about taking a contract out on her then husband's life, and you didn't report it, as you'd be obligated to do by professional standards, correct?
The way you
Is that
phrase...
Object to non-responsive judge.
Try to answer the question.
No.
Let me re-ask the question again, okay? During your representation of Valerie McDaniel, your testimony is she told you about a desire to take out a contract to kill her then husband, correct?
Yes.
And you did not report that pursuant to the rules of your professional duties. Is that correct? Yes or no, ma'am?
Well, wait a second. As far as the rules of professional duty, I'd like to see what particular rule he's talking about when an individual client tells a lawyer something that is perhaps part of the attorney-client privilege. I'd like to see the particular rule he's talking about.
If you wish to proceed in this line of questioning.
Well, can I ask the witness?
Sorry, I'm not talking.
Sorry.
If you want to continue, I need to see the same rule that the defense is asking for. Otherwise, move on.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Clark?
Yes, just a couple of questions. Was there any money issue involved with Megan and McDaniel?
Megan McDaniel? Did
No.
you s-
Was there any money issue involved in the divorce proceeding?
Oh, yes.
And would you basically explain the circumstances surrounding that issue?
Object to relevance, Judge. The financial details of Valerie's and Mac's divorce, I don't think it's relevant.
Unless you can show me relevance, I have to sustain the objection.
It just, goes to, for instance, motive. It's part of the whole circumstance surrounding this, the relationship between Golda and Valerie and McDaniel. And I think that it's something that the jury needs to consider.
I sustain the objection.
What? And besides that, Your Honor, it's already in evidence.
What is an evidence?
Answer that.
If I may, Your Honor, they brought in the fact that Valerie McDaniel had a divorce account from Mac McDaniel into the bank records when they brought in, I think it was Brendan Rogers, who testified today about that account and money coming out of that account.
Ask a question then, Mr. Farmer, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Was there any issue regarding monies in the divorce proceeding?
Yes.
And what was the issue?
The issue was a veterinary clinic and the real estate that the clinic was housed in. And Dr. McDaniel, Valerie, who was a veterinarian, she wanted the clinic, And Mr. McDaniel, who did not have a veterinary degree, wanted the clinic, and that was the biggest argument over the divorce.
You say he wanted the clinic or won the clinic?
He wanted to have the clinic for himself,
All right, go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
which is prohibited by Texas law in any case, because only a veterinarian.
Sustained.
I pass over this. Thank you.
Just a few questions, Judge. Now, ma'am, you weren't present for any of these conversations that your son had with any undercover officer or a guy named Motaz Aziz during January or February, March 2017, were you?
No, sir.
So you have no personal knowledge whether your son helped Valerie McDaniel or assisted her in any way in contracting for the death of Mac McDaniel?
No, sir.
I'll pass the witness, sir.
I may have one moment, Judge.
All right, down.
Do you have any idea of how much money Valerie had to pay in the divorce proceeding?
Yes.
Relevance, Judge?
I think it's relevant.
That was in excess of $1.2 million.
I'm sorry?
It was in excess of $1.2 million
And that money was paid to whom?
to Mr. McDaniel by Valerie.
And of course, Mr. McDaniel didn't have to pay Valerie anything, correct?
That's correct.
Now, are there text messages, if you know, from Megan to you asking for money?
Judge, objective hearsay.
Sustained.
Are you aware of any efforts on the part of Megan to obtain money from you?
Can you give me a time frame?
Objective relevance again, Judge.
Sustained.
Anything else?
Nothing further, Judge.
You excuse such